Hi there, everyone, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Illin. It's July 1st. Today, we welcome the new month, July, and we remember the very first meeting of the Vale of York Field Naturalists Club. We'll also learn about the Illinois state flower, which was adopted on this day. We'll usher in the new month with some July poetry, and we grow that garden library with a book about how gardens and growing food help people maintain their culture. I love this book. It's a personal favorite of mine. And then we'll wrap things up with a newspaper story from 1932 called Plant Explorer Finds Adventure. But first, let's catch up on some gardener greetings from around the world and today's curated news. Mary Fight wrote in to say, happy birthday to this fun-loving young lady. She's 16 years old today. And then she shows a picture of her daughter, Jody, who often helps her in the garden. So happy sweet 16. Then Maria from Milwaukee wrote in to show pictures of the blossoms on her hostas. Very beautiful. Then Catherine Reich from Minneapolis wrote in to share a picture of her Indian paintbrush. It's absolutely beautiful. They're just starting to bloom. I have Indian paintbrush along my river that I installed in Maple Grove. It does seed everywhere, but I love it. And I love that little pop of orange color. So pretty. Then finally, Trish from Roseville, Minnesota sent in a picture of her rhubarb. She'd gotten a transplant from a friend and went to put it in her garden. And then the very next day she came out and all the leaves were wilted and laying on the ground. And she was worried it wouldn't survive. Well, the key to transplanting rhubarb, just like so many other plants, is to water it thoroughly, water it in and give it consistent water as it's trying to get established. I think this rhubarb is going to be fine. Rhubarb is pretty tough, but it doesn't mean you can completely neglect it. So water it in. I think what you're seeing is just typical plant shock. And I bet in a month you'll be surprised at how vigorous it looks again. All right, that's it for today's Gardener Greetings segment. If you'd like to participate in the Gardener Greetings segment, send in your pictures, stories, birthday wishes, and so forth to Jennifer at thedailygardener.org. And remember, if you're listening to the show while you're at home, just ask Alexa or Google to play the Daily Gardener podcast. It's just that easy. Here's today's curated news. Flower Magazine recently shared a wonderful article that was called Before and After an Urban Oasis. This article featured Dwight Brown of Father Nature Landscapes. His client wanted a garden that would remind him of his European travels, and boy, did Dwight deliver on this request. The garden is absolutely stunning. I've shared this in the Facebook group for the show, so you can check it out there. But essentially, Brown aged the exterior of the house with a creeping fig. He used it as a climber on the side of the home. And then he added an Oakland holly, a camellia, and a shaped boxwood hedge that edged a gorgeous group of limelight hydrangea. Brown said, much like English ivy, the creeping fig with boxwoods, mondo grass, and hydrangeas helped create the classic cottage look that I wanted. He loves working with edibles in the ornamental landscape. He said his goal was to bring back memories of the homeowner's travels to Europe, especially Italy. If you'd like to check out this post in the Facebook group for the show, just type in the word Oasis, and this post will pop up. Then next up is a post that I wrote called Welcome July in the Garden. Here's what it said. Welcome July and all that you may bring us. For gardeners, July hosts a riot of color in our gardens. History tells us that many flowers have claimed to be the birth flower for the month of July, which, by the way, the Roman Senate named to honor Julius Caesar. In China, July's birth flower is, fittingly, the water lily. In the rest of the world, other flowers contend for the July flower: the larkspur or delphinium, the sweet pea, and the rose. Thinking about all of these gorgeous summer blossoms reminded me of a sweet verse from the Maud poem by Tennyson. It goes like this: "She is coming, my dove, my dear. She is coming, my life, my fate. The red rose cries, she is near, she is near. And the white rose weeps, she is late. The larkspur listens, I hear, I hear. And the lily whispers, I wait." The rose, the larkspur, and the lily, many of July's favorite flowers, are in that little verse. Truly, July is a month of abundance and extremes. On one hand, there's the heat, and on the other, there are the storms. In 2001, the year my daughter was born, it was mighty hot in Minnesota, well over 100 degrees for weeks on end, the entire month. As a result, she ended up wearing all of the ridiculous outfits that people tend to give you when you have a little baby girl. Things like little halter tops and itty-bitty bikinis, teeny tiny little skirts and sundresses. Now, I always preferred to have my babies properly covered, dressed in layers and bundled. But the summer Emma was born, I changed my tune. Suddenly, all those little skimpy outfits seemed mighty appropriate, and I have many pictures of her, sans blankets and sweaters, keeping cool in her summer Barbie-inspired clothes. In reality, the average temperature in most places in America during the month of July is a very pleasant 70 degrees. That said, just don't ask about the temperature range, which can vary wildly. And July is traditionally known as the month to make hay. It's called Hay Month or Maid Month, referring to haymaking and the flowering of the meadows. By July, most gardens are set, and gardeners tend to get their work done in the mornings when it's cooler and less buggy. Still, experienced gardeners know that July's biggest challenge outside of the heat is thunderstorms. I remember the summer a dear friend of mine had a garden tour planned for the middle of July. Sadly, it was a tour that never happened. The night before her big day, a huge storm whipped through the area, taking down trees and pelting the garden with hail. There was nothing to do but clean up. And I remember sitting on her patio after we had righted her table and chairs, eating one of the little radish and cucumber sandwiches that were supposed to be for the guests that day. Well, that day was as sour as the lemonade we sipped in the chopped salad that was my friend's garden. It's no wonder that the folk sayings of July reflect her temperature extremes and wild weather. For example, if the 1st of July be rainy weather, 'twill rain more or less for 4 weeks together. Despite the storms, we seem to remember mainly the heat of July and the vibrant blooms in the garden. It's a glorious month for ornamentals and cut flowers. One of my personal favorites is Martagon lilies. Martagon lilies are in peak right now in most gardens, and they bring the most beautiful architectural aspect and form to the garden. They are so exquisite, offering a Turk's cap style bloom. Like many plants, Martagon colonies get better and better with age. So plant one now. Martagons like rich soil, and they will be grateful for a dusting of lime every year. And here's a gentle reminder to divide your flag iris after they finish blooming. Regular division can reinvigorate your iris and promote healthy new growth. The saddest thing in the garden is to lose your iris because you failed to divide them. Experienced gardeners know that the best time to divide flag iris is immediately after flowering. Once again, as I like to say, prune time follows bloom time, or in this case, division follows bloom time. In any case, the end of any bloom time is usually your cue as a gardener to act. So get going. With the iris, you'll want to lift out the entire clump with a pitchfork and use a sharp knife to separate the rhizomes. Finally, don't forget that flag irises need full sun. So if you don't have them situated properly, stage a relocation immediately. All right, that's it for today's gardening news. Now, if you'd like to check out my curated articles or original blog posts for yourself, you're in luck because I share all of it with the listener community in the free Facebook group. It's called the Daily Gardener Community. There's no need to take notes or search for links. The next time you're on Facebook, just search for the Daily Gardener Community and request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Here's today's brevities. On this day in 1871, the Yorkshire Herald reported the very first meeting of the Vale of York Field Naturalists Club. On that day, the weather was very poor. Still, almost 50 ladies and gentlemen left the Society's rooms in Micklegate to travel in 3 horse-drawn carriages to go to Rievaulx Abbey. Once they arrived at the Abbey, the group then broke into small parties. They were made up of geologists, botanists, and entomologists, and then they went out and explored the valley by the Abbey. The geologists were, quote, interested in the sections laid bare in the quarries, and many interesting and beautiful fossils were found. Meanwhile, the botanists collected nailwort, rock rose, clover dodder, columbine, belladonna or deadly nightshade, northern beech fern, oak fern, and hart's tongue fern. At 6 o'clock, the party then sat down to dinner at the Crown Hotel. Then they arranged for the next field day to be held at Bolton Abbey and Woods. And then it says they left for home after a most agreeable day, which left everyone with the feeling that this first excursion of the club was a great success. And it was on this day in 1908 that Illinois adopted the violet as its state flower. As with many state flowers, Illinois decided to let the school children of the state vote to decide the state blossom. The purple violet received 15,591 votes, and the wild rose came in second with almost 12,000 votes. The children also decided on the state tree, and they selected the white oak. Meanwhile, newspapers were running a piece that blared the headline, "The reign of the violet is over." It said this: "Strange and unbelievable, but a fact nevertheless, violets are no longer fashionable. Gardenias, orchids, and American beauty roses are as much in evidence as ever, but the reign of the violet is temporarily over. It is true that a large bunch of deep purple violets, relieved by a single mauve orchid, a deep pink rose, or a single wax-like gardenia, is still an acceptable gift. But it is not the gift that is so frequently chosen this year as a small cluster of gardenias or even of 2 or 3 exquisitely beautiful orchids. And roses are much more in favor at the moment. A new flower hailing from Paris is the pink American beauty. And well, does it deserve the name? The color is an adorable shade of shell pink. And for all decorative purposes, this flower has already firmly established its place in fashion's regard. And then it ends with this line: "One cannot but regret the sense of chivalry of a generation back, when etiquette demanded that flowers always be sent to a hostess before even the least formal entertainment, and when a debutante would rather stay at home than go to a ball without a little bouquet of flowers." And it was on this day in 1910 that the Allentown, Pennsylvania Democratic paper reported that Joseph Hooker was 93 years old. Here's what it said. Sir Joseph Hooker, the world-famous botanist, received a personal note of congratulations from King George today on the occasion of his 93rd birthday. Sir Joseph, who is still remarkably active for a man of his great age, has had a long and brilliant career in his chosen field of science. And as early as 1839, he accompanied the expedition of Sir James Ross to the Antarctic region, and later he conducted scientific expeditions to many parts of the world. In Unearthed Words, today's poems are about July. As I mentioned earlier in the show, July is the month of heat and storms, and that is reflected in a number of poems. Christina Georgina Rossetti, the English poet, said, "In scorched July, the storm clouds fly." And John Ray, the English naturalist and writer, said, "If the 1st of July be rainy weather, it will rain more or less for 4 weeks together." When storms finally break through the July heat, there is also the immeasurable pleasure that accompanies the deluge, the intoxicating smell of rain. Here's a poem called Summer Rain by the American poet Raymond A. Foss. A break in the heat, away from the front, no thunder, no lightning, just rain, warm rain, falling near dusk, falling on eager ground, steaming blacktop, hungry plants, thirsty, turning toward the clouds, cooling, soothing rain, splashing in sudden puddles, catching in open screens, that certain smell of summer rain. This poem by Robert Frost, the American poet, perfectly captures the ferocity of summer storms in the garden. It's called Lodged, and it's one of my favorites. The rain to the wind said, "You push, and I'll pelt." They so smote the garden bed that the flowers actually knelt and lay lodged, though not dead. I know how the flowers felt. The July rains encourage special summer blooms, and the English author Sarah Coleridge noted this in her poem called The Garden Year. Hot July brings cooling showers, apricots, and gillyflowers. Now, if you're wondering what gillyflowers are, you're not alone. Gillyflowers was a term that often referred to plants from the mustard family, like the wallflower, clove pink, carnation, or white stock. Gilly is derived from the Latin and Greek words for clove. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book. It's called The Earth Knows My Name by Patricia Kleindienst. This book came out in April of 2007, and the subtitle is Food, Culture, and Sustainability in the Gardens of Ethnic Americans. Patricia is a master gardener and an award-winning scholar and teacher. She lives in Connecticut and teaches creative writing each summer at Yale University. Patricia had seen an old family photo of her Italian immigrant family, and she was inspired not only to learn about her ancestors' struggle to adapt to America, but also eager to hear stories from other families. She went to many different gardens, urban, suburban, and rural, in order to write this book. The jacket to Patricia's book reminds us that, quote, as we lose our connection to the soil, we no longer understand the relationship between food and a sense of belonging to a place and a people. How do gardens and growing food help people maintain their culture? This is the question that Patricia explores in her book. Vegetables, fruits, and flowers provide so much more than sustenance, food, and beauty. They convey who and where we are and what we are about. In her review of this book, the author Deborah Madison said, "We who are far removed from our own immigrant roots will do well to study these eloquent stories and learn from them. Patricia has given us nothing less than a great gift." This book is 208 pages of stories of how we connect to the earth, and it's all shared with today's gardener in mind. You can get a copy of The Earth Knows My Name by Patricia Kleindienst and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $3. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. In 1932, on this day, newspapers worldwide ran a fascinating article about the botanist Frank Kingdon Ward, and it was called Plant Explorer Finds Adventure. Here's what it said. Captain Frank Kingdon Ward, tall, well-built son of Britain, probably one of the world's most noted plant seekers, has journeyed all over the world in search of rare flowers and has led as exciting a life as any explorer and has given the world some of its most beautiful and rare blooms. Now in his late 40s, he is tanned from the winds and suns of tropical India, Asia, and the forbidden land of Tibet. He has collected flowers from the heights of the Himalayas and from the depths of marshy Indian jungles. His last expedition occurred in 1931. On it, he discovered a new pass into Tibet, 35,000 feet above sea level, through an outflung range of the Himalayas. His efforts in prying through thick jungles and climbing high mountains were rewarded in the discovery of a new species of slipper orchid said to be worth about $500. On another of his Tibetan expeditions, he discovered the blue poppy, a flower that is sought by all horticulturists in this country and obtained by few. To give an idea of the trying conditions under which he labored, consider that he discovered a new river, the lost source of the Irrawaddy, which no white man in 2,000 years of civilization had found. And all along this river, through virgin forest, he and his small band trudged, meeting wild beasts and hostile bands of natives. One of the most unusual plants he discovered was the rare Nomacharis ferreri, a beautiful flower of China. This plant was found by accident and during the height of a violent rainstorm. The flower itself is rose pink outside and dappled with royal purple inside. And each stem is from 12 to 15 inches high and bears 1, 2, or 3 of the flowers, which grow as large as teacups. The flower which Kingdon Ward prizes most of all is the Campanula calicola. Perhaps, he said, the most beautiful rock plant I discovered. It was found growing in limestone cliffs and is adaptable to rock gardens. And he said, the Orient is rich in flowers. That land has given us many of our choice blooms. Roses come from India and China, pinks, carnations, and daffodils from Asia Minor, and numerous rare orchids come from the wilds of Tibet. Captain Kingdon Ward describes a land of rare rhododendrons vividly in a book he wrote on his adventures. He said, "You may wander for days, ankle deep, through a chromatic surf of rhododendrons, rose pink, ivory white, lavender, plum purple, crimson, and amber yellow. They are woven into carpets of queer design and ample pile, or form tuffets or hassocks, or mere tangles, mats, or brooms. They spread and sprawl everywhere, bushy and twigulous, all, looming into flower together, and where escarpments break the even roll, the plant growth surges high up on the rocks. It is western Sichuan, the Tibetan marshes, and home of the Laponicum rhododendrons." Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Wyoming, Minnesota with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, Kiana Rayleigh, Maddie Doyle, Natalie Decker, and Eric Begay. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, and listeners always have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. All the stories and books that are featured on the show can be found over at thedailygardener.org, thedailygardener.org. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. Last but not least, you can share your own gardener greetings on the show by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.